I'm Kristin Meyer. I coached Caitlin all 4 years when she was in high school. People ask me, how do you think she'll do? I said, I bet she'll average 20 to 25 points a game her freshman year. She could take a shot every single time down the court if she wanted to. We're actually seeing both a rise in numbers in some programs, but also a fall in numbers in some programs.
Let's just dive right into your time coaching Caitlin. I read where you weren't familiar with her until you got the coaching job at Dowling Catholic High School. Could you just talk a bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. I coached at a smaller school before I came to Dowling. And, you don't really hear too much about middle school athletes, and I don't think social media was necessarily as big. And Caitlin wasn't really big about, posting things and that type of thing. So Dowling Catholic just has a rich tradition of girls basketball. And when I had interviewed for the job, it just was more about, I was interested in working at a Catholic school and working for Dowling Catholic. So I didn't know anything about the players, to be honest, any of the players. And then after I got hired, I heard there's this very talented eighth grade player who was, going to be in ninth grade. And, at first I'm like, okay, that's great. We'd love to have a good player. I got to see her play that spring in AAU. And I mean, immediately when you watch her play, even, when she was in eighth grade, you're like, okay, she's got some skills and talents that most other players don't have. And a lot of that was just her court vision. She's fearless on the court. She, just isn't scared of anything and just plays really big, if that makes sense. And then we started summer workouts shortly after I was hired. And, once I got in the gym with her, it was really clear to see that, I mean, she just works so hard and she loves the game. And she loves challenging herself and trying, just new different moves, challenging shots, challenging passes. And so it was just really fun to see kind of her growth and development over her 4 years in high school and now, her 4 years in college.
Coaching her during that time. Could you talk a bit about just what she was like as a player, and then us, of course, seeing her now, just her transition through these 4 years. She is a great player, but she also is one who makes her teammates around her better as well. So could you just talk about that and coaching her in that aspect as well?
Yeah, it's been really fun to see her growth as a player and a person and a leader over the past 8 years. And I think throughout high school, it was that same kind of gradual improvement in both her game and her leadership. Early on in her career, you watch her play and she loves creating shots for herself, and she's grown to love creating shots for her teammates. And I think early in her high school career, she enjoyed the shooting a little bit more sometimes than passing. And so she just loved the challenge of finding shots and for herself. So I think as she kind of grew and matured, she started realizing maybe she needs her teammates a little bit more. And she realized she was such a good passer and she could find ways to get them the ball to be successful. And that's been really fun to see, especially the past 4 years, how she keeps evolving, where she could take a shot every single time down the court if she wanted to. Like people,
Mm.
they can't stop her from getting a shot off, but she has gotten so much better about recognizing when and where to shoot, and then when and where to get the ball to teammates where they could be successful. And so, yeah, I think I saw that progression happen in high school. Obviously she wasn't playing with all D1, teammates. And
Right.
so at times she didn't necessarily have as much trust in her teammates as she had in herself and her own abilities. And so it was, a gradual improvement, and just maturing as a person and a player. And I thought by her junior and senior years, she took some big steps in becoming a leader, both vocally and by example, and really, trying to get more out of her teammates.
Did you expect her to be this household name that she is? She's referenced now in music, commercials, TV shows. Did you expect this from her? And, of course, just being honest, you were her high school coach, and now she's this nationally known athlete.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. I can't say that I would have ever predicted it. I think it would be hard for anyone that gets to this success level to see that path. At least I think so. But I wasn't surprised by the success she had and has had in college. I remember when she had left for college, people asking, how do you think she'll do? I said, I bet she'll average 20 to 25 points a game her freshman year. She's just The type of player that loves a challenge and wants to push herself to be able to be successful at any level. But to have predicted that she would be a household name and that she would literally be famous, no, I can't say that I ever predicted that. And it's been so fun to see just the attention she's brought to the game.
Mhm.
And that attention is also being brought to other college players as well. Because yes, Caitlin Clark is kind of the household name, but now people are tuning in to watch lots of different teams, lots of different conferences. And so, for me as a girls basketball coach and someone who just loves the women's game, it's been so much fun to see just the growth in the game that Caitlin has brought and the number of eyes she has brought to the game.
Have you seen a difference in your few years of coaching with seeing more girls coming to try out? Has there been a difference, especially being that you are the former coach of Caitlin Clark, and then Caitlin, of course, stayed home to play in Iowa?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a rise in participation and the level of play at the high school level. And at Dowling, we've had some pretty big numbers for participation. And I do think it's the Caitlin Clark effect, and we're probably seeing it earlier because the kids who are in high school now remember watching her when she was in high school, 4, 5,
Absolutely.
6 years ago. But it's interesting because across the state, we're actually seeing, I think, both a rise in numbers in some programs, but also a fall in numbers in some programs. And part of that is because the top tier is getting so much better. And so,
Hmm.
especially with girls, if you, for many teenage girls, if they don't think they're in that top tier, then they'd almost rather not play, And so I think with so much specialization, we're losing out on some of those middle tier players who play
Uh-huh.
multiple sports. And because they see these top tier that are playing year round and playing all this high level AAU, and they know I don't put in that much time because maybe I play volleyball or softball or soccer. And so I think there's been a decrease in the number of multi sport athletes. So as the talent rises, I think some of the numbers are decreasing, but I would say we're seeing bigger numbers at the youth level. And I think that's, across the state and probably across the country. And so it'll be interesting to see in, 3, 4, 5 years, do those numbers continue to stay higher, as they go into high school? Or will you have more kids who see these, very talented players saying, I can't compete at that level. So maybe I'll just focus on a different sport.
So, what would you say to those athletes who feel like they may not be able to compete because they are a multi-sport athlete? Because for me, I feel like they should, think about it and buy into the system. Because if you are a multi-sport athlete, that of course can help you fine tune your other skills in the other sports.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm a huge proponent of multi-sport athletes, and I'll be honest, we now have more basketball first athletes in our program, and we're probably the most competitive we've been since I've been here. When
Wow.
Caitlin was in high school, we probably had more basketball second athletes besides her. And so as a team, maybe we weren't as competitive. And so it's that fine line of to be a very, very good team, you have to have some really good basketball players. But as I said, I think there's so much value in playing multiple sports. And as coaches, we have to be a little bit more willing to work with multi sport athletes and realizing, I mean, this year I've got a freshman who plays a lot of volleyball. And so she missed a couple practices. She even missed a game to do
Mhm.
club volleyball. And so I have to be a little bit more flexible with that. But I think being part of a team, getting to compete for your school, getting to maybe play a different role is so valuable to individual athletes that it's really worth it. But I will say it's harder for those multi sport athletes to get to the level to start or to play varsity if they're not still putting in a lot of time. And you can shoot baskets in your backyard or at a park or at the gym,
Sure.
but you do have to be skilled. So I think with the rise of club sports and all club sports, it's getting harder to be a multi-sport athlete on a really good team, and that's where we have some really highly competitive volleyball, soccer, different sports. So it's getting harder for our athletes. But I personally welcome and encourage kids to play multiple sports.
How often do you get to see Caitlin play in person? I know you made it out to her record-breaking game. Talk a little bit about that, and then if you do keep in contact with her as much now.
Sure. With our basketball season, I don't get to see her play in person much. This year, I got to see her 3 times. So we went to Iowa State. We took our team. Ames is about 45-minute drive. I went to the Michigan game where she, broke Kelsey
Oh,
Plum's
wow.
record. That was actually my 40th birthday. So
Oh,
it,
wow.
it was a
Great
great,
birthday
great
present.
night. Yep. And then I did go to her senior night game, the Ohio State, where she broke Pistol Pete's, scoring record. So that was really fun. Last year, I was able to go to the Final Four in the national championship game. I've seen her play at Drake a couple times, Drake University, which is in town, and then Iowa State a couple times. But to be honest, I've probably only missed, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of her college games, and just from watching online or on TV. But watch her in person when I can. And yeah, I stay in contact. I don't see her nearly as much. She is so incredibly busy. But send her texts just to kind of check in and tell her, I enjoyed watching you play. Congratulations, happy birthday. Those things. Her cousin Audrey Faber, who played at Dowling and then played at Creighton, is on my staff as one of our assistant coaches. And Caitlin and Audrey are really close. So to be honest, I probably stay more up to date through Audrey about Caitlin,
Mhm.
just because I know, especially the last year, the number of interviews and just her brand and NIL, it keeps her very busy. So I'll find some time once the season's over, hopefully to meet back up with her and chat with her.
Absolutely. And with that being said, when she made the announcement that she would be declaring for the draft, of course, everyone believes that she's projected to go number one. Did you have a hint that she probably would be declaring, from her cousin? Were there talks within your program just knowing like, hey, she's going to do her four and then she's headed to the pros?
I hadn't talked to Caitlin about it prior to her announcement. I had my own opinions. I kind of guessed she would probably go pro. Not that she hasn't loved her time at Iowa and would have loved another year, but I think just, seeking a new challenge, and especially with a couple of her best friends graduating, it kind of made sense. But I did hear a little bit early from her cousin because she had called Audrey and told her. But Caitlin's a type that, and Audrey didn't know for a long time and said she hadn't even really spoken to her about it because Caitlin,
Mhm.
when she has a big decision to make, she just kind of waits. And when she knows, and she doesn't always even like to necessarily, discuss it a lot, or it's just more of a feeling, a gut feeling for her. So I think, she just got to the point. I'm guessing it wasn't too long before she made her announcement that she made the decision. And, to be honest, it was two great decisions to choose from, either staying at Iowa or going pro. And I think either
Absolutely.
one she would have been really happy with. And I'm excited to see her, play in the pros and see what she can do. But it'll be fun to see how it all shakes out.
This year, of course, is a very, very competitive season. There are so many teams that are great. I mean, the top 25 has fluctuated the entire season. Of course, South Carolina is the only team that remained in the position the entire season, but all of these rankings have gone up and down. How do you like Iowa's chances of getting back to that Final Four?
I'll be honest, going into the season, I was a little unsure how competitive they'd be with losing Monica and McKenna. But I have been so impressed by how the coaches have led this program, how Caitlin has stepped up even more as a leader, by the other players who have gotten more playing time. And I think the past couple weeks, how they've played, how Iowa has played, is really setting them up to be very successful in the tournament. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of really good teams. And so any night you got to be able to hit some shots and defend. But I think Iowa has as good a shot as anyone going into the tournament, and having the confidence that they beat South Carolina last year is only going to help them. I'm excited to see kind of where they end up, what their draw is, and I know they're going to give it their all, and it'll be an exciting tournament, however they end up.
I just have a question just for you from a coaching standpoint with athletes and having the decision on choosing what college or university they would like to further their career in. What would you say they need to take with them in making a decision on where they want to play collegiately?
Oh, that's a great question. I've got a couple girls right now who are, going through that process of visiting schools, and it's tough. I think the hard part is you don't always know exactly. how honest, not that coaches aren't honest, but there's so much change with transfers and NIL. So it's hard to really know if I'm a, sophomore, junior, even senior in college, where will I fit into this program? And will I get playing time? Because you might commit and then 2 weeks later they're bringing in a fifth year grad student, and
Absolutely.
so I think the biggest piece of advice and that I give our players is find a school that you're going to be happy at, find a coaching staff that you want to play for and you're willing to go and practice every day, even if the game minutes aren't maybe what you would hope or what you would expect. So find a school, you hear about feeling that it's the right fit, and
Mhm.
that's kind of hard to explain, but I think that's really true. If the distance is what you're comfortable with as far as, family being able to visit, if the college as far as the academics is something that you're happy with and you can be successful, and then the team and the culture and the coaches and the feel of the program is one that you want to be a part of. Whether you are starting and playing, 35 minutes a game, or maybe you have to wait your turn for a year or two. And so it's hard to, pinpoint one thing or the other, but just go somewhere that you feel valued and that you like the school and you like the coaches and the program.
Caitlin Clark right now is the heavy favorite to win National Player of the Year again. Um, what message do you want to give to her, just, if she achieves that honor? And then to just her transition once this college season is over for her and her going into the pro world.
Well, obviously, if she ends up winning, most valuable player again, player of the year, congratulations. It's something that I don't think she ever set that as like her top goal, but it comes when you achieve so much and you bring your teammates along and have team success. So more than anything, I'm just really proud of how she's brought her teammates along to be able to have that team success and has really grown as a leader. And I'm so happy for her to get all these great experiences. I think for Caitlin, playing in front of sold out arenas is so much more fun than getting some individual award. And so she has gotten to have these experiences that are just incredible, that she'll remember forever and that she absolutely loves. And yes, she values and appreciates the honors and the awards. But more important to her, I think, is the experience of getting to play in a huge sold out arena and impacting, youth players and getting to be just a great ambassador for the game and for the University of Iowa and the state of Iowa. And so I'm just so happy for her that she's gotten to have all these experiences. And as far as the WNBA, I am just so excited to see how her game continues to grow and evolve. And she might take some lumps early on. Those veterans, they are great players and they are experienced and they are strong and they are incredible. They're pro athletes. And so it might take a little bit to figure out exactly, how she needs to evolve her game, but I am very confident she'll figure it out and she'll figure it out quicker than most people maybe think she will, because she loves a challenge. And I think that she'll, especially early on, we'll get to see her passing ability even more, because that's how you gain trust. That's how you gain respect. And I think she knows if she can get her teammates involved early, then it'll be easier for her to score. And so I'm just really excited to see her continued growth of her individual game, and I think the growth of the WNBA in general. You already hear about these places selling out, for Indiana Fever, assuming that's where she goes. And I think the more eyes that we can get on the WNBA and the more publicity they can get, we'll get to see other players and teams grow as well. And so I'm just really excited to see her impact on the game in general.